Good morning. My name is Janelle Finch, and it is my privilege to welcome you to the Neuqua Valley Veterans Ceremony.
Hi, and my name is Savi Raghuvanshi, and it is our honor to be your host this morning. As proud Neuqua Valley Wildcats, we show great appreciation and respect to those who have served our country.
I have the pleasure this morning to introduce Dr. Benjamin White. Dr. White is a retired lieutenant colonel who served 22 years in the Army as a field artillery officer, leading and mentoring soldiers throughout his military career before retiring from active duty in 2008. He taught at the United States Military Academy at West Point and served as professor of military science and battalion commander of the Reserve Officer Training Corps program at Wheaton College. He continues to inspire and motivate students by working with the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps program at Joliet West High School. Please welcome Lieutenant Colonel White to the stage as he calls for the posting of the colors and leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
At this time, would you all please stand for the posting of colors, the Pledge of Allegiance. The posting of colors today are 4 Neuqua Valley students who have earned the honorable distinction of Eagle Scout. Color guard, up, 10, whoop. Forward, whoop. Color guard, hold. Color guard, prepare to post the colors. Post. Color guard, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. Color guard, retreat.
Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem by Neuqua Valley senior Liam Burns.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Our theme this year is family. At Neuqua Valley, we often think of each other as extended family members. Today, you'll hear from members of our Wildcat family, past and present. You'll enjoy some meaningful music from our Neuqua Valley Men's Course while we honor through photographs NVHS students, staff, and families who have served. We will have the opportunity to hear from a current student who has felt the call to serve. For our keynote session, you'll have the opportunity to hear from 2 Neuqua alum who both graduated together, chose to serve together, and ultimately ended up in the same company. Finally, you'll see a video montage of a soldier from the greatest generation. Today, we celebrate those who have risen to the ultimate call, to serve and protect the freedom that we celebrate as citizens of the United States of America. Again, we thank you for being here with us today, as we recognize a number of heroes that have ties to Neuqua Valley High School. Our first speaker this morning is Carter Edwards. Carter is a Neuqua Valley senior who is pursuing entry into the United States Naval Academy. Please welcome Carter as he comes to the podium as he shares his story.
Choices. Life is full of them. They range from the inconsequential to being life-altering in nature, and in how easy, or more oftentimes, how difficult they can be to make. Just this past year, I made the decision that I was going into the service. For the longest time, I had no idea really what I was going to do after school and what I would do with my life. My father was a Navy submarine warfare officer, so I had known about the Navy, but I think I had discredited the service for me originally because it was my dad's job. It probably was that I wanted to be my own person, and going the same way as him wasn't really how I thought I could go about that. But a couple of things I'm really happy to be able to tell you all today, actually, really weighed me on that. From when I was 5 until about 12, I had spent my whole life next to, in, and on water. Even to this day, I love spending time out on the boat. It's to the point where people have to make me get off, or I will remain with my feet firmly planted on the deck. The other thing, and the more important thing, is that most of my morals and values come directly from my dad. I learned respect, resourcefulness, discipline, and to care from others from him. I'm sure my mother will disagree on the discipline part when I forget to clean my room sometimes. Sorry, Mom. But my biggest propitiator today is that whatever I'm doing, it should try and be an effort to help others. I want to be able to do more than just make money for a company. I want to be able to improve people's lives. I want to know that at the end of the day, I spent my time and energy into something truly good. And I realized the Navy would give me the opportunity to do what I wanted. Our nation's military not only fights for the good of each and every one of our citizens, but it also fights for the freedoms of people that haven't ever known what it means to be truly free. I can't think of another path I could take right now that would be more honorable and fulfilling. And so I agreed to myself that whether I would go to the Naval Academy or an NROTC unit or enlist, I would find myself in the service of the United States Navy. Recently, I've been informed that I was accepted into the NROTC unit at University of Wisconsin-Madison, so I will either go there or to the Naval Academy, depending on where the Navy decides I should go. But this choice isn't tough for me today, even though it has huge potential effects on my life to consider. I know that this is my calling, and I am excited to go seek it. Nothing gives me more joy today that I can follow my father's footsteps. The sacrifices he and all our other nation's veterans have made fighting for freedom are to be honored. And today I thank all of our veterans, past, present, and future. The differences they make in the world are innumerable and measureless in value. Thank you.
Thank you, Carter. Next, I'd like to introduce Matt Madera and Matt Mason. These men walked the halls of Neuqua Valley together, graduated in 2003, and went on to enlist in the U.S. Army to serve our nation. Please welcome Mr. Madera and Mr. Mason to the stage as they are interviewed by current senior Joey Montagano.
All right. Well, first of all, welcome back, Mr. Mason and Mr. Madera, to Neuqua Valley. Real quick before we start this interview, if you can, just tell the audience a little bit about your military background and what year you graduated here from Neuqua Valley.
Matt and I both graduated in 2003, and we both served with the 172nd Stryker Brigade, which was based in Fairbanks, Alaska. And then during our tour of duty, we got to deploy to Iraq for 16 months in 2005 and 2006. We were infantry. I was mounted infantry, and Matt was a dismounted. So that's a little bit what we did.
Perfect. My first question for you today is, what made you both choose to serve?
Well, I think a big reason that I chose to serve was I look at my father and my both grandfathers, and they both served in the military. And there was always something that was a driving force for me. But, you know, being here, I remember being in auto class when the first plane hit the towers, and that was, you know, that was a charging point for me. And I didn't like the idea that I could sit home and do nothing while other people went and fought. So, I mean, that was a driving force for me.
Yeah, along the same lines, I have some family background in the service too, and I wanted to do something with my life instead of just go to, you know, College of DuPage. I wanted to make something out of my life, and joining the military put me in the steps forward to where I got to today, so definitely.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your experience during training. Tell us what you learned and how did it prepare you for the experience in the field?
We went to basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia, and then up in Alaska we got to do some really unique training, sub-zero temperature training and stuff like that, which was sort of funny because we left Alaska in August and it was like 65, 70. We got to Kuwait and it was like 125 degrees. So yeah. I don't know really if the training fit in that well, but we learned how to cover each other's backs, you know, different medical training, and when you react to fire and how to do your job day in, day out.
Yeah, I think a huge thing about training is when you first get to basic training, you don't know what to expect. You get yelled at immediately, which I was kind of used to that with my parents, so constantly getting in trouble. But you learn very quickly on how the military works, what you need to do to adapt, and that's the biggest thing that you take away from training is just being able to adapt and overcome. Everything is constantly changing, scenarios change, you know. Sometimes people change, but you have to get used to that in order to be successful in the military. And they tell you when you get to your unit and you try to integrate into your unit, your platoon, they tell you to throw all that stuff away and then they'll retrain you. And that's, you know, really the case, but basic training kind of teaches you and gives you that, you know, that little base that you can then develop from there. And then.
Was there any type of culture shock after your training and then when you went into the field?
Not so much. You sort of get thrown into the culture right away when you go to basic training. And then when you're at your unit, you have a lot more freedom. You make your friends and everything like that. But it wasn't too bad. It was a pretty easy transition.
Yeah, I think looking back at the experience, basic training was, you know, kind of silly. Integrating into the unit was definitely harder because you have guys that have been with each other for years, sometimes even deployed together. So, I mean, they have this brotherhood that they've already developed, and then you're the new guy coming in. So, I mean, they rough you up a little bit, and you have to get used to that, but you have to take, you know, kind of take your beatings as they come, but then you're better for it. And, you know, when it comes down to training, you have guys that are experienced that will teach you everything that you need to know. And that's what I thought was really cool about getting to Alaska, is because you have this, you know, all this knowledge from guys that have been in, you know, sometimes their entire life, their career, and they're teaching you the basics, and you really, you know, can pick up on that if you're open to learning. Some people weren't open to learning everything, but.
Absolutely. War and conflict is often glamorized and sensationalized in games like Call of Duty that many of our students play. Talk to us about the reality of the field and what are the differences from the games that they make it seem?
Well, you don't ever really know what to expect until something happens. I mean, that's why I was telling you that, you know, being able to adapt and overcome is probably one of the greatest things that you can learn being in the military. But, you know, even deploying, it is a joke until something happens. You always think that you're untouchable until, you know, your buddy gets killed or you start seeing death around you, and then it starts becoming real. And that's one of the, I think, biggest takeaway points. And I think, you know, I play the video games too, but I know a lot of people do, that war is glamorized because of what you see on these video games. We used to always get told this: there's no reset button in life. You know, this stuff that's going on is serious, and people are getting hurt, people are getting killed. So it's not a joke, really. I mean, it's.
Yeah, the way I look at it now, it's not about like checkpoints or getting a health pack. It's about the brothers that you were serving with day in, day out, taking care of you and vice versa. So you see a lot of ugly things and you see a lot of positive things too, but when it comes down to it, you really want to just take care of your fellow brothers and make it back home to your family.
Was there any point during your service where you experienced the loss of someone that you knew and cared about, and how'd you deal with it?
There's a few dates every year that come to mind that are really hard to go through the day. One of them that's real important for Matt and I, and we wear these bracelets, is for our friend Josh Pierce, who was killed when we were over there on February 26th or February 23rd, 2006. What happened was when we were out doing a patrol, I was in a lead vehicle, and Josh was driving the vehicle behind us. We got hit by an IED. It was a very big IED. It was like 4 daisy-chained, which is like connected 155 rounds, which are like this tall and like this big around. So it was a huge, huge bomb. And it blew the striker up. And I remember when we turned around, I could see Josh laying on top of the vehicle, and he wasn't moving. It went over the radio that we had been hit, and we had experienced some casualties. And then Matt showed up on the scene to help secure the scene. It sort of all settled in after we heard that we had a KIA, which is a killed in action. And they don't tell you who was killed on the radio because you still have to move forward with the mission. So we didn't really find out who it was until later in the day. But it sits very heavy on our hearts even still today. And we have to remember Veterans Day isn't always about the ones who are alive and you can thank. It's about all the other ones who can't be here and the sacrifice they made.
What was kind of going through your minds when you figured out that it was your friend Josh that was a KIA?
Well, I remember that day pretty vividly. Like Matt said, I was a fire team leader, so I was in charge. Basically how a squad breaks down is you have a squad leader and 2 team leaders, and the guys fall under team leaders, and it's just like the little hierarchy that you have. But my responsibility as being the lead team leader was I had to secure the site and secure the buildings around the site. And I don't know if you've seen pictures of the vehicles that were in Strikers, but they're troop-carrying vehicles, so you can load up 9 infantry guys in the back. Well, this was, pretty early in the morning, and you do what you can to get sleep because, you get tired. And I remember waking up because I heard the radio chatter that somebody had been hit by an IED, and IEDs were, something that happened every single day. So it was more like a nuisance. But I remember hearing it was pretty bad, and when they dropped the ramp, I was the first one off, and I jumped into a puddle of water, which was because of the IED that went off. And I remember being ticked off because my socks were wet, and that's like the worst thing to have your socks wet all day. But very, very shortly after, you start realizing what was going on, and I remember seeing Josh outside of the vehicle, but to me, just running past him real quick, it looked like he was trying to get out, but he wasn't getting out. And then everything started coming together. We started getting more information, and we figured, my first thought it was Matt, and that freaked me out big time because I, grown up with him. But the emotion throughout the day was you had kind of had to bottle it because you still had, you had a job to do. I had a job to do. I had to clear buildings and search for people in the area because somebody was watching who blew that IED. But that was very difficult for me to try to bottle emotion and still stay focused on what was at hand. So yeah, that was hard, but that comes down to training and just moving forward with your mission. That's what you have to do, and that's what you get trained to do.
Being in a conflict or war is very tough on a number of levels, but is there any positive things that you could take away from the war? Anything that was very positive?
By far, we got extended for 4 months to go down to Baghdad because there was the surge into Baghdad. There was a lot of sectarian violence, and we had to go through neighborhood to neighborhood and clear out the bad guys and sort of clean up what was going on. On the last hour of the last day of my on of Martour on our mission. I was driving the vehicle for our company commander, and we were just cruising through a neighborhood ready to get out of Dodge, and we saw a vehicle that was swerving really, really funny. So he said, just drive after that vehicle. So we took off after it. It jumped over train tracks and slammed into a wall. And when it slammed into the wall, the trunk opened up, and there was a guy who was handcuffed and had a bag over his head, and like he was being kidnapped, because that's what they were doing at the time. They were kidnapping people from neighborhoods and murdering them. So right when the car crashed, we see this guy, and 4 dudes jump out of the vehicle wearing ski masks and start shooting at us with AK-47s. So we engage them, and I think 2 of them were taken down. But the point of the story is, after we saved this dude's life on the last hour of the last mission, so like the whole time I was over there, even if it really didn't mean much, we got to save one guy's life. And as we were assessing the scene, his family came up, and he had like 2 daughters and his wife, and they were just bawling crazy because he was just kidnapped like 3 blocks away, and they were just so thankful that we were there to save his life.
I think a lot of the positive things that came out for me was, one, we could, there would be a lot of face-to-face with, people in the village, and, if you haven't been there, you might assume that everyone in that type of environment is bad, but that's not the case. It's some of the nicest people I met in the world were, from Iraq. So getting to interact with a different culture, seeing how there's so many similarities. Even there could be different religions, but I mean, people are people, and they're very loving, and they took us in, and because they knew that we were trying to help them a lot, and that was a huge positive that I took away from this situation. But also, just being able to build friendships. I mean, I have the greatest friends I'll ever have are in the military. Sorry. My best friend Billy. I mean, I'm his first daughter's godfather, and he's my son's godfather. I mean, these are relationships that no matter what, they're going to be around. I can call him for anything, and he would be there in a heartbeat. And that's very unique. You can't find that really anywhere else.
One other positive story is when the whole time we were over there, a couple of my buddies and I were looking to have skateboards and like just get away from all the horrible things that were going on over there. So when we got sent to Baghdad, we were put on a base that had a giant warehouse behind us that wasn't being used. So the first thing we did was we went online and ordered skateboards. And they got sent to us like a week later, and during that week we went around the whole base and collected scrap wood and metal to make rails and all kinds of stuff. So it came together in a few weeks, and we built a sweet little quarter pipe and had a box, and could skateboard around and just escape the world that we were living in and take you back to better days. So it was very, very cool.
You talk about your skateboards. Did you have a lot of downtime when you were deployed?
Not so much. It was a lot of 12-hour days, 12 on, 12 off. Every now and then you would get a day to recuperate, or you would also have a day where you were like a quick reaction force, and you would be on standby. So you would have to be ready to go out to do patrol, but you wouldn't necessarily be out doing work right then. A lot of times you would get called out to do patrol or react to contact or whatever was going on. But you kept busy for most of the time.
Yeah, you found the little things that you enjoyed doing, like Matt liked to do the skateboarding. I used to just lift weights constantly. That's all that was my biggest stress reliever. But, we were busy a lot of the time. You're talking 2 to 3 patrols a day, 4 to 6 hours each. And then there was always a circumstance where the first or the last 10 minutes of the patrol, something would go down. You'd be stuck out for a lot longer. So, I mean, you find ways to keep yourself busy. You sleep a lot. You don't play video games, things like that. So,
eat a lot too.
Yeah.
As you both reflect now, what kind of feelings do you have knowing that you served your country?
Well, I was thinking about that question this morning, and the first, I'm proud of it. It's definitely something that it's a unique experience. It's not something that's made for everyone. Not everyone is, can be handpicked for the military. It's not for everybody. But I'm definitely happy I served my country. there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about, you know, my time in the service and, you know, some of the experiences that I've had and friendships that I've made. So, I mean, it's definitely something that I'm going to be able to tell my son about and my daughter, and, you know, so.
Yeah, I think it's super sweet, man. I'm a veteran now who serves veterans at the VA hospital, and so every time I get to hang out at work and take care of guys who did similar things in a different era, I think it just makes me so proud of everything that I did, and it really makes you who you are today. Like, you change in a way, and you know, you're still your same self, but it really, like, on days like today and pretty much every day, man, it just makes you proud of what you did and that you can do. You're proud to say that I'm American and I'm a veteran too, man, yeah.
So if you can go back to your high school days, would you make the decision again to serve in the Army?
By far.
Or the military?
By far, man. It put me through school. It got me a house. I'm a nurse at the VA hospital. It got me my job. I love my life, and I'm very proud to be a veteran, yes.
I was a knucklehead, so yeah. Yeah, definitely. Wouldn't change it for the world.
What type of advice would you give to students that are currently thinking about joining the military?
Think through it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something easy. You can lose your friends, you can lose your life, you can lose limbs. It also, like, there's a lot of positives that come out of it, like we said. I think I sort of, like, taking that question, would I send my son to the Army? If he decided he wanted to go, I would support him. If he decided he wanted to go to school, I would support that too. I think it's a very positive thing, but it's not an easy decision to make.
Yeah, it's not something that you can give up on. It's a commitment, and you have to be ready for that commitment and everything that entails. That's the biggest thing. Same point with Matt. If my daughter or my son wanted to join, I'd make sure they had all the facts and I'd make sure they knew what they were getting into. But yeah, I would support it, I think.
Absolutely. And what kind of feelings do you have when you kind of reunite with your old partners from the military? I know you guys are reuniting today.
So it takes you right back. Like, it's like an old school friend. It's like no time has passed when you have a real friendship, and it's like that when you hang out with your old buddies. Beers get cracked open, and it just goes wild, you know. Yeah. Like, a lot of times there's bail money involved, but yeah, it's really, really cool to have friends all over the U.S. and being able to hang out with them and reminisce about the good old days, and then also move forward in life and see where they're at now. And it does. It's like no time had passed, man. That's how you know it's good friends.
Yeah, for me, it's my closest friends from the military. I mean, we've progressed so much in life together that it's not so much that we reminisce about, you know, our time in the service. It's what we're doing now, because we stay pretty involved in each other's lives. So I mean, it's like I said, you'll never have a better friend than somebody that you fought with. That's for sure. So.
What do you guys think is probably the best thing from your time serving in the military?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Not having college debt.
By far. Like, getting me to where I'm at today, being able to go back for a master's program and have a house and an awesome job, and yeah, by far that's the best thing, man.
No, I was on a different path before I joined the military, and I think one that wasn't, I just wasn't doing the right things, and the military definitely taught me some of the things that I needed to be successful. It taught me, you know, a lot of discipline, just like everything that they say. But I mean, it gave me a purpose, and I think that's definitely made me the person who I am today. So that's the biggest thing I take away from it.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up here today, is there any last words that you would like to share with the audience about your time?
Not so much, man. I think we covered most of it. I hope you enjoyed the pictures.
Yeah.
They were pretty sweet, I know.
All right, well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you both for coming back to NEQA and for serving our country. Let's give a big round of applause to Matt Mason and Matt Madera.
One more round of applause for Mr. Madera and Mr. Mason. Next, I'd like to introduce a wonderful video piece about retired Army Air Force Second Lieutenant Warren Hamburger, who served in World War II. Mr. Hamburger is the grandfather to the wife of Mr. Tom Trazer, who is one of our faculty members and coaches here at Neuqua Valley. Please enjoy.
Broadcaster Tom Brokaw coined the phrase "the greatest generation" in 1998 to describe the group of men and women that grew up in the United States amidst the Great Depression, but who maintained pride, patriotism, and courage to sacrifice and fight for our country during World War II. From the front lines of the European and Pacific theater to the domestic factories that continued to produce necessities for war, this particular generation was selfless in the efforts to put country before anything else. The greatest generation, similar to other groups of individuals that served in this country, consisted of ordinary people that made decisions to do extraordinary things. Not for fame and recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. It is for these selfless acts that we shall always remember the sacrifices and service of the greatest generation. Warren Hamburger is one example of a hometown hero and deserving member of the greatest generation. Warren grew up in Chicago's Rogers Park neighborhood and graduated from Sullivan High School in 1938. He valued education and hard work and began college at Wright College in 1939 before transferring to the University of Illinois, where he studied accounting and was a member of the Illini baseball team. Warren would eventually continue his education at the University of Chicago, where he'd earn his MBA. However, like so many others in his generation, career and family had to be put on hold due to America's involvement in World War II. In 1943, Warren became eligible for the draft, but instead volunteered to enlist in the Army Air Force and fulfill his military duty for his country.
It just went in as a second lieutenant in the Air Force. Went down to Dallas and then to Marfa, Texas, and that's where I started my career in the Air Force.
Shortly after enlisting, Warren Hamburger would begin his training as a cadet in Texas. He would make his way up to the ranks to second lieutenant and take over as a navigator in a B-24 Liberator. This particular bomber was nicknamed the Flying Coffin due to its inability to sustain flak damage and the fact that there was only one exit at the rear of the plane that made it nearly impossible for the crew to get in and out of in the case of an emergency. Yet despite unfavorable odds, Second Lieutenant Warren Hamburger and his fellow Red Raiders successfully completed 48 missions and flew nearly 420 combat flight hours, something Warren calls a miracle.
48 missions in the Air Force. Was lucky not to have been shot down.
After the war, Warren met Susan Shane in 1948, where they married, had a family, and settled in the north suburbs of Chicago, where they still live today. Warren Hamburger, now 93, has vivid memories of his service during World War II. He is grateful for the opportunity to serve his country and for the relationships he formed along the way. Warren has also been fortunate enough to see the impact that the greatest generation has had on our country. In April of 2012, Second Lieutenant Hamburger participated in an honor flight at Midway Airport, and more recently had the opportunity to be reunited with a B-24 as it made a stop at Pewaukee Airport near his home in Glenview on July 25, 2014. Today, as Warren Hamburger sits with his family and discusses the latest state of Chicago sports, his passion for food, or inquires about the well-being of his loved ones, he has one consistent wish: to end all wars and bring all of our troops back home safely.
I wanted to do my part in the military service, which was being in the Air Force.
Mr. Hamburger could not be with us here today, but I would love to just give him a round of applause, as I'm sure he'll have the opportunity to see this either live streaming or recorded at a later date. I also would like to thank Tom Trazer, who I know is here, and he reached out and did a great job just working to get the interview footage and put something together, and as well as Lisa Trout, who runs our media department. Great job putting that video together and that piece. Thank you for your honor. On behalf of Dr. McBride, who is doing some great work in China right now, actually, he's out of town, I'm filling in what is traditionally his principal remarks. And so I'm thankful to do that. I'm David Perry. I'm one of our assistant principals here, and have had the great fortune to help line up and put together the event this morning. And thank you to all the fine men that are up on stage who have served. I'd like to just, if I could, call out just two that are here with us today that are currently with us. We see them in the halls regularly. They're reaching out to our Neuqua Valley students consistently if they have an interest in serving, and that is Army Staff Sergeant Michael Larson and Army Staff Sergeant Yoel Lorenzo. Could we give them a round of applause, please? You know, it's hard to believe, but this photo that's going to come up here behind me, it's been 21 years since this photo was taken. And this was my very first year coaching football. I graduated back in 1992. And in 93, I decided, I think I want to go out and I want to coach. So I started coaching junior tackle football. And this was the crew that I had. These are the Flyweights in Belvedere, Illinois. And I had a great time. This is probably the group that ultimately solidified it to me that I wanted to go into education. And so they mean a lot to me. And over time, I think they've grown in meaning for a number of reasons. One is that on this team was a young man named Brandon Ramey. Brandon was a great kid. I remember coaching him out on the field. He was a hard worker. He loved football. He just enjoyed being a part of the game and getting out and having a great time. And, I go on to college. I coach them. I just started college, so I go through there. I start my teaching career. And about 11 years later, my parents give me a call and say, "Hey, have you ever heard of a young man, Brandon Ramey?" And I said, "Yeah, Brandon Ramey was on my flyweight football team. But now he's no longer known as a little boy." The next image that I see of him, both in the newspapers and also in the news footage, is United States Marine Brandon Ramey, age 22, died while serving our country in Iraq. Here's this name that I associated with a little boy playing football. And here he goes on for me to see that he has taken on the ultimate call to give service to our country. And he's no longer a little boy, but he's a hero. He's a man that laid his life down for you. He laid his life down for me and for his whole country. And, I have a remnant. As soon as I heard this news, I went to my closet. I have a lot of keepsakes in there. And I pulled this out, and I look right here. Brandon Ramey signs this football for me. I have a lot of memorabilia. I love collecting sports memorabilia. I have a lot of autographs, but I got to tell you, there's not one more valuable in my collection than this one right now. Because while all of those other guys are certainly, I've got Walter Payton, all kinds of other great autographs, but this is a young man that laid his life down on the line for me. And who would have ever known back then that this little boy would go on to be a hero? Sometimes we just never really know who in our lives will go on to do something heroic. I think about coaching Matt Madera on the football field and seeing Matt Mason, knowing him as a student, and to know what they've done and to see their experience has been amazing. And I thank you for that. I think about all these people in my life that have went on to do great things for our country and made a lot of sacrifices. And my encouragement to you is this. I think it's very easy for us to take for granted, all of us. I don't assume everybody leads an easy life, but I could tell you that a lot of us have a lot of luxuries in our life. A lot of them. More than maybe we could even count. And I think that we owe our military service a debt of gratitude for the freedoms that we have to enjoy those and the sacrifices that they've made, some with their very lives, and others who have led in conflicts, or those that just show up every day and do what they're supposed to do and follow the orders that they're given in order to protect our country. I know that I feel blessed that they're doing that good work to give us the freedom. So I encourage you to really look at this a little bit differently. Think about owning this personally. How can each of you reach out and say that that's not a soldier that's just putting their life on the line for our country, but that's a soldier that's putting their life on the line for me? Because that changes the perspective of how you feel about our veterans. When you think about some of us, you just see images on TVs, images like you saw here, and you think, well, that's good for them. That's what they chose to do. Some of you may even think, I'm glad that's not me. But I will tell you this, I am glad that it is them. And Matt said earlier that it's not for everybody, and it's not. And those that pick up and follow that call, and they feel that call to go serve, and they follow that, and they lead it, I'm so appreciative of that. And so I would just encourage you, everybody in this room, as you have an opportunity, not just on Veterans Day. I think this is a great time that we take a step back and we remember our veterans. But I would encourage you every day, every veteran that you come across, would you take a time out of your life and would you reach out your hand, shake theirs, and thank them for what they've done for you and for our country? I know they appreciate that, and I'm going to tell you that you'll feel better too. So I'm going to encourage you from here on out, for as long as you live, to reach out and shake the hand of a veteran as you see him and thank them for their service. On behalf of Neuqua Valley High School, our administrative staff, our district office colleagues, I would like to thank everybody in attendance today that is a veteran that has served, and I also would like to honor those like Carter Edwards who are going to make the choice to go forward and to follow that calling to serve the country. Thank you, we appreciate you, and we love you. Thank you. Turn the program back over to Savvy.
I would now like to introduce our men of Neuqua's choirs, who will be singing "Who Are the Brave?" The text of this piece repeatedly asks this question: who are the brave? Bravery comes in many different forms and is championed by many different people. Those whose lives may seem plain, those who may be in pain, those who go to war, and those who fight no more. We rightfully gather today to thank our veterans and those who have served our country. And I hope that the song the men of Neuqua's choirs will sing will reveal to us that this opportunity for bravery might be extended to all. All of the pictures in the slideshow represent mothers, daughters, fathers, children, grandparents, and relatives of our Neuqua Valley staff. We treasure their service and their commitment to our country, and we are pleased to have the opportunity to thank them today.
These words have been used often, but carry much weight. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay it. Today, we celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. Like Mr. Perry said, when you see a veteran, take time to thank him or her for serving our country. Thank you all for being here today. Would you please rise as we retreat the colors?
Color guard. Forward. Move. Color guard. Hold. Color guard. Prepare to retrieve the colors. Color guard, retrieve the colors. Color guard, return. Color guard, halt. Color guard, dismiss.
Thank you again as we celebrated today with the theme of family. So many connections to Neuqua Valley High School. I hope this was as meaningful to you as it was to me. Thank you. Have a great day.